Have you ever wondered why you keep falling into the same patterns of mistakes in relationships, even though you try hard to change? Or why there are times when you feel your partner's desire for closeness, but then suddenly want to pull away? If this sounds familiar, it could be due to the fearful-avoidant attachment style, a complex and contradictory attachment style that holds the key to understanding and breaking free from repetitive mistakes in love. In today's video, we will explore the biggest blind spot of this attachment style, the very thing that keeps you stuck in difficult relationships. More importantly, I'll share how to integrate the conflicting parts of your inner self to build healthier, more stable relationships. Trust me, this journey won't be easy, but the results will be absolutely worth it. If this is your first time visiting my channel, welcome. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you won't miss any videos about attachment psychology, self-healing, and personal growth. Let's embark on the journey of self-understanding and healing together, starting right now. Number 1. Fearful-avoidant attachment. Internal conflicts blocking stability. People with a fearful-avoidant attachment style often experience an inner conflict. They tend to rely heavily on information and reasoning to make decisions about their relationships, but rarely draw on their emotional cues, which are often suppressed by their own minds. When feeling insecure, they may cling excessively, constantly seeking reassurance from their partner to ensure they won't be abandoned. This can manifest in frequent texting, calling, or requesting more time together, sometimes to the point of control or excessive dependency. They may ask their partner questions like, "Do you love me?" or "Do you still want to be with me?" to feel secure. However, if intimacy becomes overwhelming or makes them feel vulnerable, they immediately withdraw. This distancing can show up as emotional coldness, avoidance, or building an emotional wall. This conflict makes it difficult for them to maintain stability and harmony in relationships. Biologically, their behavior is linked to how the brain processes emotions and perceives threats. The overactive central amygdala, which governs fear, often causes fearful-avoidant individuals to perceive danger even in relatively benign situations. Their nervous system reacts intensely, pushing them into extreme stress responses, either clinging to their partner or avoiding them when insecurity arises. These traits often stem from childhood environments where they didn't receive consistent emotional care from caregivers. They may have experienced emotional neglect, where their needs for love or support were ignored or met inconsistently. Such experiences taught them that relationships could offer both love and potential harm. As a result, they grew up with a complex psychological cycle, craving connection while fearing vulnerability and hurt. This cycle makes them prone to repeating old mistakes in relationships, even when they strive to change. Understanding these internal conflicts is the first step toward identifying the root of instability in relationships. But what truly causes you to repeat the same mistakes despite your best efforts? Let's delve into the key blind spot that keeps you trapped in this cycle and prevents you from achieving balance in love. Number 2. The key blind spot that causes you to repeat mistakes. If you identify with an avoidant attachment style, you might take pride in your ability to learn lessons from past relationships. This is a trait you share with securely attached individuals. Your strength lies in your logical problem-solving skills, identifying causes, analyzing situations, and coming up with solutions for improvement. You might think to yourself, "I've been through this before, and next time I won't make the same mistake." This ability to learn is valuable as it gives you a sense of control and confidence when entering new relationships. However, your biggest blind spot is the lack of balance between logic and emotion. You tend to rely on one or the other at any given time instead of integrating both. When logic takes over, you may analyze everything in a detached, cold manner, disregarding your own emotions and those of your partner. Conversely, when emotions are triggered, you can easily fall into a defensive state or extreme clinginess, seeking constant reassurance from your partner to soothe your internal anxiety. We often enter new relationships believing that we've learned from past mistakes. But why do you still find yourself in similar situations, just in a different form? This happens because you haven't identified your psychological blind spot. Instead of examining unconscious behaviors and suppressed emotions, you focus on what you've done well, overlooking what truly needs adjustment. This blind spot isn't intentional. It often stems from deep childhood wounds. You may have grown up in an environment where your genuine emotions weren't accepted or were met inconsistently. As a child, you learned that expressing sadness, fear, or anger might not be safe. These emotions might have been dismissed, criticized, or even punished. Rather than facing these emotions, you develop defense mechanisms to protect yourself. Emotional suppression. You learn to hide vulnerable feelings, pretend they didn't exist, or detach yourself from pain to avoid further hurt. This behavior isn't a conscious choice, but a natural response to an emotionally unsafe environment. But, for example, if you were ignored or criticized when expressing negative emotions in the past, your brain may have learned that suppressing emotions is the best way to survive. You might feel that showing emotions only leads to disappointment, which results in a habit of internalizing all your pain and not sharing your struggles with anyone. As you grow up, this defense mechanism continues to operate unconsciously. When faced with difficult situations in relationships, instead of feeling pain or vulnerability, you build a defensive wall to protect yourself. This can manifest in several ways. Dismissing your own and others' emotions. When your partner says something hurtful, you may not feel the pain they caused. Instead, you might think, "This isn't true, I don't need to care about it." While this helps minimize short-term pain, it often creates emotional distance in the relationship. Analyzing and pointing out flaws. You focus on winning the argument by identifying flaws in your partner's reasoning rather than understanding the emotions behind their words. While this might seem logical, it's actually a way of avoiding your own deeper feelings. Detaching from emotions. During conflicts, you may become emotionally numb, as if you're observing the situation from the outside rather than actively participating. While this helps you avoid emotional overwhelm, it also prevents opportunities for building deep understanding and connection. This emotional invalidation not only affects your relationships with others, but also impacts how you perceive yourself. By not letting your true emotions penetrate the defensive wall, you fail to fully recognize how situations are affecting you. This leads to a recurring cycle. You don't identify the pain in the moment. When hurt, you don't feel the pain strongly enough to motivate change. You don't learn the necessary lessons. Because the pain is suppressed, you don't realize that this type of conflict requires a different approach. You repeat old behaviors in new relationships. When facing similar situations, you continue to rely on old defense mechanisms, resulting in the same outcomes. Relationships that become distant and difficult. For instance, when your partner makes harsh criticisms or acts cold, instead of feeling hurt and addressing the issue, you might think, "This person isn't worth my concern." You focus on why they're wrong, but don't put yourself in their shoes to understand the emotions driving their actions. This mechanism helps you avoid pain in the short term, but in the long run, it hinders your ability to build healthy, lasting relationships. Your blind spot doesn't stem from a lack of knowledge, but from emotional avoidance, which prevents you from seeing the full picture in your relationships. This blind spot causes your unconscious defense mechanisms to block you from fully experiencing the true pain of the present situation. When you build a defensive wall, you don't let the pain through. Instead, you avoid it by rationalizing or dismissing your own emotions and those of your partner. As a result, you fail to recognize that this type of conflict needs to be handled differently. Rather than seeking new solutions, you fall into a familiar cycle, hiding your vulnerabilities, overreacting or responding inappropriately, and ultimately feeling inner conflict. When emotions are triggered, instead of confronting and acknowledging the pain, you quickly hide your vulnerable side. This often stems from a fear of rejection or deeper hurt if you reveal your true feelings. For instance, if you feel hurt by a partner's criticism, instead of admitting it, you might say, "It's fine, I didn't even notice." When emotions are suppressed for too long, they often erupt unexpectedly and uncontrollably. You might react defensively, criticize your partner in return, or withdraw entirely from the conflict. This not only escalates tension, but also creates distance between you and your partner. If you overreact, you might say or do hurtful things simply to protect yourself without realizing that your actions harm the relationship. If you react inappropriately, you might become indifferent, silent, or emotionally disconnected, leaving your partner feeling abandoned or unheard. After the conflict subsides, you may wonder, why did I act that way? Why can't I control my emotions better? You feel regretful or confused but remain unsure how to break free from the cycle. Each time this happens, you may fall into self-criticism or anxiety about repeating the same mistakes in the future. The irony is that the defense mechanisms you use to avoid pain not only disconnect you from yourself, but also leave your partner feeling confused and hurt. Consistently hiding your true emotions and avoiding conflict pulls you further away from your genuine needs and desires. You might feel trapped in the relationship or wonder why things aren't improving despite your efforts. When you avoid emotions or rely too much on rationality, your partner may feel like you're not listening or that you don't care about their feelings. They might feel isolated, misunderstood, or unimportant to you. This creates more distance between you and heightens tension in the relationship. To break this cycle, the first step is to recognize the recurring patterns in your behavior. Ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? Am I trying to hide any emotions by being defensive or withdrawing? Acknowledging your emotions and vulnerabilities is a crucial first step toward building healthier and more connected relationships. Once you recognize the cycle, focus on responding more balancedly by using both emotions and logic to address the issue. Instead of avoiding or attacking, try expressing your feelings clearly and honestly. When you said that, I felt disrespected. I need us to discuss this so we can better understand each other. Learning to face your emotions instead of hiding them will not only help you break the recurring cycle, but also foster a healthy relationship where both partners feel connected and understood. Understanding your blind spot helps you identify the root of the issues in your relationship, but breaking free from the cycle of mistakes requires more than that. To truly heal and build healthy connections, you need to apply practical strategies focused on balancing emotions and logic while developing honest communication skills. So, how can you start this journey? Let's explore specific steps to break out of the negative cycle and lay a solid foundation for your relationship. Number 3. Practical strategies to break free from repetitive cycles. Breaking free from repetitive cycles in relationships requires a holistic healing process, starting with self-awareness and progressing to the development of practical skills. First, recognize and accept that you have both opposing parts, anxiety and avoidance. These responses are not something to be ashamed of. They are natural outcomes of past wounds. Instead of judging yourself, see this as an opportunity to better understand yourself and take conscious actions. Next, focus on integrating emotions and logic, something you may have struggled with before. Practices such as meditation, journaling, or therapy can help you reconnect with the inner feelings you've often suppressed. At the same time, learn to assess situations not only logically, but also emotionally to gain a more holistic perspective. This will enable you to make more balanced and appropriate decisions in your relationships. Authentic communication is also essential on this healing journey. Instead of using accusatory or defensive language, try expressing your feelings clearly and honestly, such as, "When you did that, I felt sad and hurt. I'd like us to talk about it so we can understand each other better." Additionally, encourage your partner to engage in resolving conflicts by asking for their input rather than imposing your views or escalating tension. This fosters collaboration and ensures that both parties feel heard. Simultaneously, practice maintaining healthy boundaries. Boundaries not only protect your personal space but also promote mutual respect in the relationship. Dedicate time to nurturing other relationships, such as friendships or family connections. This helps create balance in your life and prevents over-reliance on a single romantic relationship. Finally, don't hesitate to seek support from professionals or support groups. Participating in therapy or programs like emotional support groups can help you release past wounds and learn to process emotions in a healthy way. These resources provide not only healing but also a foundation for building a balanced and fulfilling life. This journey takes time and patience, but the result is freedom from negative cycles and the ability to cultivate truly meaningful relationships. Thank you for taking the time to watch today's video. If this content has helped you identify your blind spots or sparked new thoughts about building relationships, share your reflections in the comments below. The journey to healing and self-improvement is never easy, but you don't have to walk it alone. We can always learn from and support one another. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you won't miss future content about personal growth, emotional attachment, and building healthy relationships. Your support motivates us to continue delivering meaningful value every day. Remember, no matter how challenging the present may feel, every step you take is part of the healing and growth process. You deserve a life and relationships filled with love, safety, and genuine connection. See you in the next video.